This is verse 6 of the 12th chapter, Gospel of John. We've just seen Judas objecting to the waste, as he sees it, of the anointing of Jesus by Mary in the home of presumably Simon the leper. We read about that from other texts. Now, John gives his own little editorial remark concerning the apparent concern that Judas had expressed. We might detect a little bit of cynicism here, but I think we'll give John the benefit of the doubt that he's simply reporting to us what he was aware of with respect to Judas, or possibly became aware of at a later time. So, apen. This is from Lego. I say, it's the third person singular aorist active indicative, second aorist, of course. So he said, and then postpositive da, so but he said tuto, direct object of the verb. This is the demonstrative pronoun, accusative, neuter, singular. He said this, uk, which is the negation, of course, the chi before a rough breather, not because, hoti. Peri means about or concerning, takes the genitive. So he said this not because concerning tone, genitive, plural, masculine, the patokon. This is the word for poor. We commented on it in the previous verse, same word there. It means poor, but it really means poor in the sense of those who have been bowed down or caused to cower. It's an unusual word. It occurs elsewhere occasionally for poor. So he said this not because he was actually concerned about the poor. And then emelen. This is from mello. It means to be concerned about. It's only used in the third person in the New Testament as it is here, and we would render it more like it was of concern. This happens to be the third person singular imperfect active indicative, so it was not of concern. And then the auto here functions as, in a sense, the indirect object. So it was not of concern to him, referring to Judas. So he said these things not because concerning the poor, it was of concern to him, would be the idea. Allah, contracted before the rough breather here, but because, and then of course the real explanation, kleptes. We get kleptomania, of course, from that. It means a thief, because thief, ein, from ab, I am, third person singular, imperfect active indicative, because a thief he was, kai, and to glossokomon. This is a word that has an interesting history. I won't go into it, but it basically came to mean a bag. It was originally something like a carrying case. The root of the word is actually glosso, for tongue, and it went back to people who were involved in performing and so on. But anyway, it has to do with just carrying the bag, and then so the idea is echon. This is from echo, I have. It's the present active participle masculine, singular nominative, referring back to Judas. So he was having the bag. And then ta balomana. This is the participle, present passive participle. It's the accusative, and it has to do with the neuter, I should say, accusative. And participles, so the casting in things. So he was carrying the bag, having the things that were cast in is the idea. In other words, donations that were made in order to support Jesus and his ministry. He was the guy that carried the bag. And then the ebastadzen, he bore it. This is the word bastadzo. It means to carry or to bear something. So he was carrying the bag into which people were casting their offerings, which were intended to support Jesus and his disciples in their ministry. And of course, the point John is making here is that Judas would occasionally help himself to the contents of that bag for his own personal interest, and thus betray something of the character that would come into full light at a later time, of course, in the story concerning Jesus.